Okay, so we're now going to turn to a second item on our agenda, which is the discussion pursuant to the Nassau County Executive's executive order. This was an item that was asked to be added tonight, so I'll ask if there's a discussion from the board table.
Sure, I think I can lead us off tonight. Everybody's okay with that?
And we have also just our general counsel, Chris Venator, is here from Ingram and Smith.
So, executive order. My hope for tonight is there seems to be a lot of people, a lot of politicians, a lot of associations who have all come out with a lot of opinions on this past week's executive order. And I think we owe it to ourselves, to the community, to really go through all of this together, kind of get in the weeds as a board, go through the legalities with our attorneys, ask all the questions that we need to ask, and hopefully, at least at the end of tonight, be able to at least come together collectively as a board, at least deciding where we want to move forward or how we want to address this. It could be to vote, to not vote, to move forward, to ask questions, but I would really like us all at this table to ask enough questions tonight that we all feel comfortable as a collective group saying, the Locust Valley Central School District Board of Education, this is our stance on this executive order, and we feel confident as a group. We may not all agree, but at least we'll have the information that we all need tonight. That's my hope for this conversation as a board member. And I appreciate our council being here. You may get a little bit of stage time tonight, so I appreciate your time. And I think, Margaret, maybe you want to kind of, you're really good at starting at the beginning. I mean, we started with Cuomo.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to kind of just take some of the noise out of the way, because I think that there was a lot of weighing in on Friday after January 6th, 3 executive orders that were signed. There was a lot of weighing in from organizations that sound like they have some type of legislative or governing power, because they have a lot of acronyms that go along with them, but they really are advocacy groups or lobbyist groups or paid membership organizations. So I just want to get that out of the way for the public. The first one is the Nassau-Suffolk School Boards Association. It is a paid membership organization comprised of local school board members. Not every one of the Nassau or Suffolk school boards are members. I know of several who have opted out. They do not pay the dues. They are not part of it. The Nassau-Suffolk School Board Association's first priority is to the oath they took to the elected positions that each of those members that sit on their board and their executive committee took for their own home districts. The second organization is NYSBA, the New York State School Boards Association. Again, is a membership that represents school boards, and we pay them to help us with resources and services. They do our training, and they do hold a yearly conference where all of the school boards present different resolutions that are important to them. There's a very large contingency of school board members that meet and go into session, and they vote on the different important topics for NYSBA to then go and lobby Albany on. Again, they are not a governing body. They have no legislative backing. They have no governance. Neither of these organizations require mandated participation. They are not regulating or law enforcing bodies with no jurisdiction over the action of any school board in the state of New York. The letter written by Mike Kelly of the Nassau-Suffolk School Boards Association is nothing more than his opinion. Ironically, when the most recent 2.6 extension of the determination was replaced in December and then extended 2 more times, neither NYSBA or NISBA or NICET took the time, in effort, in lockstep, to write an objection to the fact that 2.60's extension of a determination eliminated mask breaks for all students K through 12. They didn't think that was important to stand behind. I need the public to understand that.
2-year-olds and up.
2-year-olds and up, sorry, 2-year-olds and up, no mask breaks all day. NICET is the union of the teachers, and they have not written a letter in condemnation of adding and slipping in that little piece into the extension of 2.60's determination. Lastly, a lot of local Democrat leaders wrote a letter, and I can only speak to this district, but not one of our 3 elected officials, Democrat or Republican, on the state level has visited our schools in the past 20 months. They have not seen our children sitting and eating like a prison. They have not seen our children sit next to windows that are open in freezing temperatures. They have not seen our lower elementary kids who couldn't play with their friends at recess because we couldn't mingle with other people last year. They can't sit at a lunch table with their friends. Our kids are melting in the classroom in the hot weather and freezing in the classroom in the cold weather. And then they leave our school, our kids, and they live beautiful, active lives without masks. It's just amazing. They socialize at parties, birthday parties, bounce houses, country clubs, sporting events, sports camps, sleepaway camps, day camps, summer school, recreation. The funny part is when you watch them leave in the high school and they all jump into the same car, sometimes 10 of them shoved into a Yukon. Nobody's got a mask on in there, but make sure you wear it and don't take a break all day long. So that leaves me, I have a lot of questions from my friend, and I really say that with love, Mr. Venator. And I don't know if I'm gonna let you speak first and you tell me and then I'll tell you my questions, but I do want everyone here to know that I think Chris Venator is one of the best lawyers on Long Island.
Thank you, Margaret.
You want me to ask the questions, or do you want to make a statement?
You want me just to give you just a brief overview, and then
You could give a brief overview. That would be great.
All right. So as we know, the county executive issued an executive order requiring school districts in Nassau County to have a vote by a certain date in January with respect to the requirement to wear masks. In response to that, the governor of the state of New York and also State Education Department, the Commissioner of Education, each then issued statements indicating that the Nassau County executive didn't have the authority to issue that type of executive order, and indicated that any district that went ahead and voted in favor of not having masks, that would be in violation of regulations of the Department of Health, and therefore those school districts would be subject to some type of penalty, including the removal of board trustees and/or the forfeiture of state aid. So that's what happened last week. So you have a county executive who's taken the position that he has the authority to issue this type of executive order, and you have other people in government, the New York State governor and the Commissioner of Education, saying that the county executive doesn't have that discretion to do it. And I'm sure, I'm making an assumption, I would assume that before the Nassau County executive issued that executive order, he consulted with, he has a number of county attorneys at his disposal. I'm sure he spoke with them, so he must have gotten some advice from people indicating that he had the authority to do it. And the governor and the state education department, they spoke to whatever attorneys they speak to, and I'm sure they got the advice that the county executive didn't have the authority. So that's kind of where we are. I'll try to answer your questions. A little bit of this, is unknown, right? So we've never had this before. So I don't have any precedent that I can rely upon and say this will definitively happen. So just an overview, the law, what the law, consists of. The law is a very broad topic. So within the law, you have statutes, okay? New York State education law is a statute. Open meetings law is a statute. General municipal law is a statute. Vehicle and traffic law is a statute. We probably have 100 different categories of statutes in New York State. In addition to statutes, we have regulations. We have regulations of the Commissioner of Education. We have regulations from the Commissioner of Health. We have a number of bodies that are authorized to issue regulations. I would say that those things also fall within what we call the law. We also have what's known as common law. Common law is this great body of case law that comes from courts, Nassau County Supreme Court, the Appellate Division, New York State Court of Appeals, federal courts, where they interpret statutes and they interpret regulations, because there's a lot of gray that's built into those statutes and those regulations. So courts, they opine on what those things mean, and they create this other body of law called case law or common law. So I just give you the background so to get an understanding of when you talk about the law, it's all of those things. Just general overview.
All right. I'm going to start at the beginning.
Okay.
Can you just very briefly explain the difference between Cuomo's executive orders and that Cuomo does not, that those orders were taken away from him and Hochul does not enjoy those privileges of an executive order for an emergency disaster?
My understanding is while the legislature gave Governor Cuomo the authority to issue those orders and allowed that to take place, at some point the legislature then took away those powers, so they no longer existed. That's my understanding of what happened with respect to the power of the governor to issue certain executive orders, where some of them required the approval of the legislature.
Right. So in August, when Hochul made a statement that she knew she didn't have the authority to force mask mandates on children, and she directed the Department of Health to find a way, that's because she does not enjoy the privileges of the executive orders, because March 2021, the legislative took that away from the position, not the person.
I think that's correct.
Okay. The county executive is stating and maintaining and doubling down since Friday, since Thursday, nationally, on national television repeatedly, that he has home rule power, and that his home rule power, specifically in the state of New York, is one of the most broad-reaching home rule powers in all of the states, and that he has the power to override a determination. Sorry.
Yeah, I know he says that, so let's talk a little bit about what it's called the municipal home rule law is. And it's a section, it's a statute, so it's a law that talks about sort of the separation of powers between municipalities, like counties, school districts, villages, towns, and the state. So that home rule law, municipal home rule law, stands for a couple different propositions. One of the propositions is that to the extent that a municipality, let's talk about a county, to the extent that a county has been given the authority to legislate or to enact rules or orders, et cetera, on a particular topic, then that gives that county the authority to do that. There's also a doctrine under the municipal home rule law that speaks to another principle. We call this preemption. And the preemption doctrine speaks to a situation where the state has evinced an intent to legislate on a particular area and has in fact legislated on a particular area. So in this particular case, what the state is saying is that we have given the Department of Health the authority to enact specific rules and regulations concerning schools and wearing of masks and social distancing and the like. So the state is saying, because we've given that authority to the Department of Health, a county or any other municipality is preempted from enacting rules or laws that are in conflict with the state legislation or the state regulation. So there's two components of the home rule law.
Did the state give them? The state didn't give the Department of Health that jurisdiction. It wasn't given. The power wasn't given by the legislature. The Department of Health gave it to themselves. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I think they're relying upon a particular section in a statute which authorizes a Department of Health to issue regulations.
Right, so
Just a
did not
general
go through
position.
the legislature.
No, it did not, you're correct. It went through the Department of Health.
Right.
No, and we have to come back around because there's two different avenues I'm going to
Okay.
go here. The first one is the most recent extension, the December 10th extension. It says in it that the August and the November extension are null and void. They changed the word, they don't use the word mandate at all in the 2.60. They changed it. The only words that are in there are action, determination, requirement. They actually don't even use the word regulation anymore. When they did this extension of this determination on December 10th, they slipped in the section about taking away the mask breaks. They also put in the indoor masking in New York State. Now, if I were the governor, I would have gone 2.64. That's what I would have done. So there's got to be a reason why they didn't just make a new 2.64. Just to give everybody, 2.60 was the mask mandates in the school, 2.61 was reinstating the quarantine, because by the way, last summer there was no quarantine and close contact for the Department of Health, so that all the children could go to sleepaway camp and everything like that. So we didn't even have to report last summer. However, we had a phenomenal maskless summer with almost no COVID rates across Long Island in schools and everything. But 2.62 is the mandate for the teachers to be vaxxed and or tested, and if they don't do either, they will be walked out of this building, any building. So why wouldn't they just take the indoor masking for New York State and make it 2.64? Instead, she embedded it into 2.60, and she also slipped in taking away the masks. Now, fast forward to January 6th, there were 3 executive orders that Blakeman signed. The first one was that the parental choice, that the boards needed to vote to whether or not to have parental choice or not, and every board can vote their own way. The second executive order was for all county workers to not have to wear a mask indoors or outdoors. The third was a directive to all Nassau County agencies, Nassau County Department of Health, Nassau County Police Department, Nassau County Fire Marshals, to stand down, basically, not enforce the mandate. According to Hochul, on December 13th in her press conference, and I have all of this for you, on December 13th, she said, I can't enforce the counties to enforce this. I can hope that businesses will do the dirty work for me, but I can't enforce it. And on her website, where you literally have to dig into the Q&A to even find the new extension of the determination 2.60, on her website, in the Q&A section, where is it? It says that all enforcement will be at the local level. So isn't she basically giving Blakeman the home rule? I'm sorry.
When I say the local level, I think she's talking about the local Department of Health.
And our local Department of Health is under the jurisdiction of Nassau County and an executive order to not enforce. Now, I know that under Cuomo's executive order, which was a real executive order for a year, I know that the fire marshal had the capability of shutting things down, because it happened to me. And I wasn't even there. It happened to Lori Minicozy. They shut down the Halloween Howl. Somebody in town called and reported us. They showed up and they shut it down, because that was a real executive order. It had teeth. It had legal backing. Here, this is on the governor's website. How will these requirements be enforced? It is our expectation, that's a funny way of saying law, that New Yorkers will understand the importance of following this requirement, another funny way to say law, as we enter this holiday season where a surge in cases is expected. Enforcement will be done by the local health departments. So my question is, how can you surgically extract from the same 2.60 that you're only going to enforce section C, I think it was, 3C. You're only going to enforce section 3C, but you're not going to enforce the section for the rest of New York State, which is section 7. all indoor public places not otherwise covered by this determination, which would fall under the executive order number 2 that Blakeman gave. So I don't understand how you can, pick and choose. If it's all in the same document, how are you picking and choosing which executive order you're going to enforce and not if it's law? If it's all enforceable law, how do you pick and choose?
Well, I don't think there should be a pick and choose, and I think, if you're required to enforce, you should enforce everything. And if you're not, then you don't. So I agree with you to the extent that there shouldn't be that we're going to enforce 3C, we're not going to enforce 7. That does seem to me to be inconsistent.
Because if it was a law, you'd have to enforce all of it.
Well, the other thing that has come down, and I don't know whether this is going to happen, is that, I heard through various, sources, we talked to a lot of people in the state to figure out what's going on, et cetera, that to the extent that, this dispute continues and it becomes a real dispute, that, the Attorney General may get involved and may bring some litigation against Nassau County. That's being, I think, talked about up in the state level. So whether or not that will happen, I don't know, but I know that that's something that's been discussed, and that could happen. I don't know.
Do you know why they haven't brought that litigation already? Because there's a handful, I want to say over 10 counties in the state of New York that have openly said they are not
29.
enforcing. 29.
29.
29 not enforcing the mask mandate, and there has been zero litigation against any of those counties? The AG hasn't brought
Right.
anything to any of those counties?
It may be different. Again, I'm speculating. That may be different if the issue was mask mandates in schools as opposed to stores and other indoor places. So they may distinguish between that and make a determination, well, we're not going to force it in, the Walmart or the 7-Eleven, but when it comes to the schools, we're going to enforce it. I mean, so that's a possibility that they would take that position if, in fact, it turns out that there are districts that take the vote and vote not to have a mask requirement. That type of litigation could arise if that were to happen. So far, that hasn't happened yet. So that could spur on that type of litigation. But again, I'm speculating. I don't have any inside information in terms of whether or not that's going to happen or not. I just know it's something that's been talked about.
So the legality of this extension, and it's called the Commissioner's Determination on Indoor Masking pursuant to 10 NYC RR 2.60, December 10th. It was supposed to expire, the indoor masking portion of it was supposed to expire January 15th. I think they moved it to the 25th, and now they're moving it to February 1st. And the legality of it, I question, because in August, the New York State Department of Health granted themselves the ability to override their own New York State regulation policy to change policy. They said, we're in an emergency, it's a crisis, we have to just bypass the protocol to change policy, and we're going to put this August mandate down, and that's what they did. But then there was no emergency from August until November 27th. It was supposed to last for 90 days. And in order to extend, revoke, or review, you had to do 45 days for an existing policy for it to go out to the public to hear public comment.
Is that under SAPA?
And that's SAPA.
Yeah.
Correct.
So they didn't do that. So they just met and they gave a quick determination on November 10th to hold, November 24th to hold us over to December 10th, and then December 10th superseded it. So they didn't give the public the right or the time to speak to it, and that is state law. Now, ironically, today, NYSED, New York State Education Department, notified, which I find so interesting, the public of their SAPA, basically, through Twitter, that they have an amendment to one of their regulations, because that's what you have to do. You have to notify the public when you're going to amend a regulation. And the wording in their document is SAPA. It's, we have to do this. This is New York State law. We're amending our policy, and we have to bring it to the public. So they know that it's legal that's the legal way to do it, yet they didn't do it for 2.60. And the understanding of the two things that they put forward is that, in my opinion, they are going to be circumventing the legislative process on getting vaccines into the buildings and tests and pharmacists and nurses to be able to come into the buildings and give the shots in the buildings. They are going to circumvent the New York State legislation where there is a bill that might go to the floor and be voted on. They're going to allow those people to not have to vote on it, and they're going to run it through the New York State Department of Education and then say it's law. That's what's going up for amendment in February. So, you know, I just don't understand how SAPA works for one amendment of a regulation, but it doesn't work for this amendment of a regulation when we were not in crisis anymore because everybody was in masks. So where is the SAPA for continually revising and extending this?
I'm not sure, I haven't really followed the bouncing ball in terms of those nuances. I understand that under the State Administrative Procedure Act, that there are certain requirements, and whether or not, you know, they're permitted to waive those requirements under certain circumstances. I'm just not sure. I haven't, you know, done the research, you know, on that. I know, for instance, by analogy, boards of education have policies, and there's a policy on creating a policy. And I know that there have been times when, you know, we have provided resolutions to boards to temporarily suspend their policy on making policy because of an emergency situation or a pressing situation.
Which
So-
they did in August, but
Right.
then
So-
we weren't
So
in
whether or
an
not that's
emergency.
valid,
Right.
you know, I agree with you, that's up for debate.
Right. And honestly, Chris, all of these things, I would love for you to, you know, get the things that you don't know, like get answers for us, because our meeting is next week. I'll give you a printout of all these questions.
Sure.
She did say on, I said that, just to be clear, the Nassau County Department of Health, the Fire Marshal, and the Nassau County Police Department were all in attendance on Thursday, as was all of the heads of all of the CSEA union reps that work for the county. They're all in agreement with the executive orders. Today, Dr. Eisenstein was quoted as saying that schools need to do what's right for their individual districts, which is another indication that the Nassau County Department of Health is punting it back to the school boards. And just for the public edification, what is the difference between a mandate and a determination, legally speaking? Is there one?
I don't think there's a legal significance between the two. I mean, I think they both get to the same place, you know, a requirement.
Okay.
So I think, you know,
So they're changing of the wording?
yeah, I think maybe because they're trying to emphasize something, maybe they call it a mandate.
So going
But
from
I don't
a
think they
mandate
mean,
to
I don't think that
determination?
determination and mandate, I don't think they mean anything different in terms of what they're putting out. Whether they call it a mandate, they call it a requirement, it all means the same thing. They're saying, you have to do this.
And in a world where there isn't NYSED, would an executive order of a county executive supersede a mandate and/or a determination?
Determination or mandate from whom?
From the public health of New York State?
If that county regulation is inconsistent or in conflict with an area in the law where a New York State, whether New York State or the Department of Health, which is a subset of New York State, has already legislated, then under the preemption doctrine, that county mandate may not be enforceable.
Okay, so if the New York State Department of Health says that the local authority, Department of Health, is the one to enforce it, and the executive order comes in from that county and says, stand down, where does that leave? If NYSED is taken out of it, and we're just talking about regular old people, not kids.
Well, I mean, I think it'd be a different situation if the local Department of Health made that determination. You're talking about not the local Department of Health, you're talking about the county executive. right?
But the local Department of Health is saying that he is not enforcing it prior to an executive order. Because Curran didn't sign an executive order, and Curran went out on December 13th, as well as Boulogne, and said, we're not enforcing this. So.
Yeah, I think both the Suffolk County and Nassau County Departments of Health have indicated that they're not going to enforce the mandate. But they didn't, I don't know that they articulated, well, we're not going to enforce it in stores and other places, but will enforce it in schools. So I don't know if anybody's made that distinction clear.
All right.
So, I can't tell you if, let's say, a given district wasn't abiding by, let's say, having everyone wear masks and made it, choice. I don't know whether or not, in that instance, whether it's the Suffolk County Department of Health or the Nassau County Department of Health, whether they, in that instance, would say, okay, now we have to enforce it because it's schools. I don't know.
So
Chris-
Betsy, and one last thing, guys, and then I'm done. Betsy Rosa wrote, counties do not have the legal authority to require boards of education to vote on specific issues. So the county doesn't have the legal authority, but can the board decide to vote in and of themselves, not under an executive order?
Well, a board could vote on anything it wants to vote on.
Okay. And school officers take an oath to obey legal requirements. The state education expects school boards will follow all legal requirements. We all took an oath to the United States Constitution, the New York State Constitution, not Betsy Rosa, and not state ed. So all legal requirements would actually be the 10th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and all the other constitutional violations that they're putting on our children. We would have to defend those rights because we are to follow all legal requirements. It is a legal requirement to defend the United States Constitution. And the United States Constitution trumps the state constitution, except when the 10th Amendment is, right?
Correct.
Okay. That's it.
Any
I'm going to ask a question. Has there been instance in the past where the state education department has withheld state aid on matters that pertain to the Department of Health?
I don't think I've seen that. I mean, I have seen situations where the state education department has withheld different types of aid, building aid, et cetera, where school districts didn't fill out the correct paperwork in order to be eligible for that type of aid. It could be special ed aid, it could be building aid, et cetera. So I have seen other situations where state aid has been withheld. I can't tell you that.
But those all fall under the jurisdiction of the Department of Education, correct?
Yes.
And this falls under the Department of Health, correct?
Yes.
So really, they're both vying for a seat at whoever is at the top of the table here, or at the top of the totem pole.
Well, they each have different powers. The state education department is saying that they can withhold state aid, they can have board members removed. So they're saying that's within their jurisdiction to do that. But in answer to your question, I haven't seen any particular instances where a Department of Health regulation was not followed, and state aid was.
Is there a law allowing the state education department to withhold funds at their whim?
I mean, it has to be embedded in some statute. I don't know what statute they're relying upon to make the statement that state aid will be withheld. I can look
If we
to see
could look
where
into that.
Okay.
Because a claim that they can withhold state aid has to have some legal backing.
It does. You just can't withhold money. You have to have some type of, regulation, law. We have specific laws on state aid and how one gets state aid. Whether or not there's something in there that talks about contingent upon a school's compliance with X, Y, and Z. I don't know, but
If
I
we could look into that,
Sure.
that would be great. More than they just don't want to give it to us or they don't like what we're doing. And then in just the other reference, in states, there's plenty of states throughout the country that have executive orders stating that mask mandates are not allowed in schools. And there have been plenty of schools that then went out and took it upon themselves to put a mask policy in place. How does this differ?
Well, each state is different, so I don't know what state you're talking about.
Let's take Florida for an example. They're in the
Okay.
news. They have they have an executive order to not allow mask mandates in schools. There have been schools throughout the state of Florida that enacted their own mask mandates within their district.
I don't know the results of any litigation, so I'm not familiar with what the result has come about on that issue in Florida. I just don't know.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I mean, does this, I'm going to put it out to the board. We've had a consistent message for the last 18 months that we were fighting against masks. That's been this board's stance. We have written numerous letters. We have taken numerous positions legally. I would really love to know, I mean, I think it's important for us to have this conversation and be frank that we're all on the same page, that this is still the fight we're looking to have. Whatever route that is this what everybody wants? I'm in this fight. I want these children out of masks. It's asinine what they're doing to these children. It's child abuse. So I'm in the fight. I was at the county executive's office because I believe in the fight. I'm not saying we all have to agree on how to go forward with that fight. We have to, obviously, this is a board, you make decisions, but I think this is the time for us to have the frank conversation as where are we as a board? Our community deserves to know.
Well, Lauren, I believe in no mask. We went down the road a few times, and if we don't get the support from other districts and the whole state, nobody's going to take two schools seriously. That's the bottom line, and I'd like to ask Chris, is the state ed, are they going to be able to withhold funds from us when they put all the onus on, the Department of Health to make the laws? That's, the question is, we went to bat for the lawsuit. You got a quick no, like no tomorrow, and we can go down that road. We can't go down that road again to my liking, because we don't have enough support besides the 2 or 3 school districts. I don't want my kids to wear a mask. I think it's the parents' choice to wear a mask. I'm not wearing a mask now.
John, I just want to say that it's very important for everyone to understand what the lawsuit was based on was the August mandate determination, whatever you want to call it. That has since expired,
Right,
and we have to get to the bottom of whether it's been illegally extended.
right.
We also have to get to the bottom of how do you pick and choose enforcing one part of it and not the other when it's all still under the same 2.60. And the game has changed. We have an executive order in this county. So we also have to get to the bottom of that. To say that we're going down the same road is not really, it's not the true story. It's not the picture. And this is, I agree with you, other districts need to stand up. I think that, can't remember which agency was quoted in Newsday saying, it's not fair to put this on the boards. And it really puts them in a bad position. And, another board, I think it was the Democratic leaders said the boards have no voice. So I would make the argument, if we have no voice, what are we doing up here, first of all? Second of
Right.
all, I disagree with him. We have a voice. We're elected by our constituents. And, I think that a lot of board members, and we've attended the meetings that Massapequa was holding, where 2 board members were attending, and there was just open dialogue. It's clear. They want to be told, I can't do this, because it's really a hard road to navigate. It's a really hard decision to make, and people just want to be told, you have no choice. And what I saw go down on Friday was like a game of whack-a-mole, and it's the law, it's the law, it's the law. It's actually not a law. It is actually not a law. And the biggest, most dangerous thing is when the public is told a lie repeatedly, and then they start believing it. And they just regurgitate that soundbite out. And I think that that is where a lot of our fellow colleagues are lost. They're not actually reading the information. It takes hours every day of the week, including Sundays, to go through all of this and read it and then follow what these agencies are saying and what NICET is posting and the laws and the amendments and everything. And, you know, to sit there, you know, and just say, hey, I can't do it. And let me tell you, that's the easiest thing. But I fight not against this district. I fight for this district, and I fight for every single kid to have a choice, a parental choice. You want your kid in a mask? The vaccines are out. We sat here in August, and we listened to people beg, wait for the vaccines to get out. The vaccines are here. You could even get a booster. And if you still want to have your child in a mask, that is your God-given right and prerogative. But no child should be masked from 8 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And for all intents and purposes, I hope to God that high schoolers take a break if they're staying after school for athletics. But some of these kids, or even theater, some of these kids could potentially be in this building between bus transportation and the end of the day, almost 8 or 9 hours in a mask with no break. I want to know the person who thinks that's okay. I want to know the argument of how that helps. I want to hear it. So this is it. And I'm not saying take a vote tonight, but we need more answers. And we can't just rest back and say, I can't make a vote because of this or that, or, you know, it's out of our hands. This is it. And I am telling the parents of this state, you better get up and start fighting for your kids. Because if NICET passes those amendments next February, the next amendment that's coming down is a mask, and your kid will never get out of a mask. And they will, it doesn't matter how many times you give them a shot, they will never get out of a mask. So where do we go from here? Do we ask Chris to come back next week? Do the other board members want to say something?
Yeah, I'll say something. Margaret, Lauren, John, thank you. I am pretty sure everybody in this room knows what I'm going to say. I am okay with being the lone naysayer. I hear you. I completely agree about mask breaks. That's just, excuse the language, batshit. There should be mask breaks. I am a teacher. I give my students mask breaks. I am saying that on camera as well.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Because
the elementary kids are not getting mask.
No, and I hear that, I do take my responsibility seriously, and I do hear also from other constituents that say that this is not for them. And I hear that, but I must say I have to play the safest card, and I know that some people in here will find that offensive. I do, and I understand. It's, again, excuse the language, it is shit to wear these things. I know that. I am somebody who does have to wear it. The moment I get on the Long Island Railroad platform, into work, it is terrible. I've also had people tell me on the subway, how dare you dip your mask lower. That's too much. I hear that. But I do it because I truly believe that this is the safest way to go about my business. And for kids, I mean, the city is a shit show right now. I come from a different world, I understand that. But I will be the lone naysayer if I have to be. And I appreciate all the voices, but I do not believe that I support child abuse. That one really bites me in the ass.
Well, a 2-year-old for 8 hours a day with no mask breaks, yeah. I'm going to put it in that bucket. I'm sorry. And you know what? The thing we're fighting for you too, Sean, to have that choice. You should have a choice to put that mask on the platform and wear it all day. You're a grown adult. You have that choice. And every parent in this district should have that choice to make with their children. If you feel personally that that is what protects you, you should have the choice to put it on or on your children. But if I don't agree that that's the best choice, I should have the right to make that choice for me and my children. We are not fighting for everyone to be banned or forced to take their masks off when they walk into the school building. That's not this fight. The fight is for the parents to have the right to choose for their child. And I'm sorry, without having children, maybe it's a different conversation.
I don't think
I'm
that's...
sorry, but I have to make that choice every day. You've never had to make that choice.
I sit with kids longer than their parents do every day. I am offended by that.
Well, I'm sorry, you've never had to make the choice.
I
So
will-
you can make the choice for yourself,
I will
but I
also
am
say,
fighting
hold
for
on, please,
parents to
please let
have
me-
the choice for their children.
Let me
Just
finish.
let her-
Let me finish with the one point here. I will never cast aspersions on my fellow board members.
No?
I will not at all. I will not do that publicly. If we
publicly.
want to have that discussion, we can have that one-on-one. But I will never speak about personal issues. That crosses
This isn't a personal
line.
issue. All I said was that you have
Yes,
not
I
had
don't
to
have
ever
children.
make that choice. You've never had to make that choice for a child. You've never had to send them to
think
school
that's
all day in a mask.
I think
So
that-
I have a different perspective. You
I hear
have
that.
a perspective as a teacher. You brought your opinion as a teacher.
I think that went a step too far.
We can agree to disagree.
No, I agree. I agree.
It's okay.
That went too far.
Yeah. Chris, when do you think whoever is going to come down on Blakeman is going to take place? They're not going to let this sit by the wayside. That's a big point. It doesn't make it right or wrong, but when is somebody going to come down and challenge him that he can't do this? When they take aid away from Nassau County? If he's supporting this, do you have an opinion?
Again, I don't have any inside information, so it's part speculation. I would have thought that something would have happened already in the form of the Attorney General doing something. That hasn't happened, but I'm with you. I have to think that there's going to be some pushback, some legal pushback by New York State with respect to Nassau County and those executive orders. Why that hasn't happened yet, I don't know, but I think some type of legal action is going to take place. But I don't know when that's going to happen. Again, I thought it would have happened already, that there would be some sort of, legal challenge that was initiated. An application for adjunctive relief or something. I would have thought that would have happened already, and it hasn't happened.
I'm sure Blakeman's attorneys or the county's attorneys have, before they made this move, I know he campaigned very heavily for no mask, but I'm sure their attorneys looked this through, and they're not going to, I know the guy personally, but I'm just saying, I know they're not going to put this through just to push it through, but they must have some basis that they have here.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they looked at it from a legal standpoint to try to find the legal authority for the county executive to issue these orders. In any situation where you have litigation, you have lawyers on one side who believe the law is X, and you have lawyers on the other side who believe the law is Y. And that's why at the outset of, giving some background, I described to you that there's statutes, there's regulations, and there's case law. So, it may be that we're going to eventually have some case law that will determine, who's right and who's wrong on the legal basis for the county executive to do what he did.
And how much power does a county have against a state?
Well, the county's a subset of the state. I don't think it has any power over the state.
I mean authority, to make a statement like that and to fight the state on that.
Well, again, I think the county has taken the position that under the municipal home rule law,
Right.
that it has the ability to regulate locally within its county on certain things, and they're saying that those certain things also include, school regulations.
Right.
Now, whether or not they're correct in that belief, I don't know that we're going to definitively find out until some type of legal action takes place and we get some sort of legal decision.
That's pretty wide open, isn't it? That
Yeah?
it's like a couple football fields long,
I think the intent here is to confuse the public, the back and the forth, the executive orders of this, to that, and nobody even knows which way is up.
Yeah, you're right.
I honestly think that's the intent.
And the state is being very, the state has been like that for a while.
She went on and she threatened him the other day that anybody who crosses her does so at their peril. I would have expected an injunction if it was a law. That's what I would have done.
Yeah.
I mean, Letitia James is, right there. Their offices are probably next door to each other.
The pressures that the governor puts on the Department of Health are tremendous. It's their boss, basically. They were appointed, but in business, the pressure's coming from the top to the Department of Health. Are they going to be like Margaret and Lauren and, are they going to fight against their boss? That's the bottom line. It's pure business.
Yeah, I don't think the Department of Health is going to fight against their boss.
No.
The county might.
Well, I know just from speaking to the county DOH prior to Blakeman taking office, he has been lobbying the state, telling him his data, and that what he felt. He happens to be one of the only, I think he's the only virologist in the whole state. But I think it's also, I've said it before, I think it's really important to say that the state has the data. They know that the schools aren't the problem. They know that. They've known it since September 2020. They could have given metrics and data all last year. They could have given it out in September and said, let's start the year in masks, and then when we get to this point, you can, go mask-free or something like that. They didn't. They didn't offer one bit, not in the first August face covering prevention mandate, and then the November 24th, and then the December 10th. Not once in any of those documents is there any type of data. And our schools statewide have to report it. They have the data. They don't say when you hit this metric, you're out, or when you hit this metric, mask up. Nothing. It's at the determination of the commissioner of the state of New York Department of Health. And in November, prior to them reissuing the extension, they called it, I think it was called a Public Health Committee met. Who is that? Who is the Public Health Committee? Nobody even knows. Listen, when Cuomo sent down his stuff, it had his name on it, and it had Zucker's name on it, and it was official every time, because it was under an executive order. I feel like this is just, I don't understand. I don't understand. I just don't understand anymore. I really don't. So you can keep fighting to keep your kids in masks, but the game's going to be over soon enough.
George?
So, thank you to all who shared their opinions and their thoughts and their legal progressions. It's sort of amazing to me that it's necessary to go on the record with the following, but, I'll entertain the tone and sentiment. Nobody wants to wear these damn things. It sucks. We all know it. It's a pain in our ass. It's a pain in everyone's ass. I get it. In August, after a lot of deliberation myself, I went ahead with parental choice. I want my kid in a mask, but I was willing to understand and appreciate others who may want to choose something else, given at that point in time the legal, legislative, statutory data, however you want to label it. Things simply change at a really rapid period of time. If we want to put it to a vote right now, right here, right now, I am not going to vote for parental choice. I have not been convinced yet in terms of the analysis of distinctions between law, mandate, whatnot, who can do what. I want clarity before I will put my name to that kind of vote. I want to understand that. I want to make sure I'm not putting our district, our students, our families, our finances, anything at undue risk. I want to make sure that I understand the full picture. And that's always the way that I've been. I've handled every single issue that's come before this board in that exact same way. I measure twice and cut once. I don't just shoot from the hip. Never have, and I never will. It sucks. The thing that concerns me most out of this conversation, to be clear, is that there seems to be, unfortunately, a continued discrepancy in how we are managing this painful process across the district. My daughter's classroom, they have mask breaks whenever they want. It's not yellow, it's not green, it's not by row. It's the child needs it and the child gets it. And then I hear from my colleagues that there's no mask breaks on another side of town or another classroom down the hall. That's a problem for me. So I don't know what we need to do further to get that message out there to people, to allow them to have the breaks in this interim. But yeah, I want to, between now and next week, I'd like to see, is there going to be an injunction? Is there not going to be an injunction? Yeah. Does this executive order stand? Does it not stand? I'll give a correlation. State ed, right, regulates fingerprinting in the teach system for departments of education across the state and for vendors and for teachers, how they get fingerprinted. The commissioner is responsible for reviewing fingerprints. And as you dig into that law, there are regulations that are left completely vague and amorphous up to the discretion of the Commissioner of Education. So if a certain form is used, is that law? Or is that a mandate? Or is that a requirement? I don't know. People argue that all the time, back and forth on a variety of things. But as it stands right now, tonight, I, for one, will not vote for parental choice until I have more information. And I want more information. The week is worth it for me to make sure that I'm not looking here in March telling you we're out 4.3 million. Or suddenly they remove all of us. We're worried about representation, about being here for our constituents. In the event that they remove us, then we have another big headache on our hands. And I don't want to be in the press for that as a district. I don't think that's worthwhile. So I want to understand more. So that's where I am.
And I don't believe that the people that would replace us would be district residents. Am I correct on that, Chris? It would be appointed by the Commissioner of Education?
I'm not really sure. I would think they would have to be district residents.
I assume so. I assume residents.
I think they would have to be.
I don't know how they would pick them.
George, I want to be clear, because Brian, I had no intention of taking a vote tonight. I thought it was a public work session. I thought we weren't allowed to take votes. So I just, it's a
No, I just want to
and
be.
I just want to be clear.
I want to
because
make sure I'm just clear about where
I
I
have a lot of
stand with
questions
everybody.
that Chris couldn't answer tonight. And I also just want to make, sometimes numbers get thrown out there. Our state aid is not 4.3 million. Am I right? Just because you just used that number, I just,
4.15.
state aid?
It's 4.3 million.
Okay.
4.3. No, I don't want to lose $4.3 million, believe me. You think you're going to get the people in the audience here? They'll be packed here if you're losing $4.3 million.
5%.
So, and in the past, I've heard board members, myself included, and ask the question, can we exit the state on this? You can't do that. There's regulations. You can't say, we're not taking your money. There's too many things that they give us. The bottom line is, for me, is someone has to stand up, make a determination what it is. If it keeps floundering, it's tough to make a decision, the right decision. I can go with my heart is not to wear a mask, but financially feasible, I can't be either. That's not why I was put here. So it may not happen in a week. I don't think it's going to happen in a week. We'll see. So I'm not ready to vote either. I'm not clear on the outcome, but I know what my heart wants to do. I want to vote parental choice, but financially, I don't want to put this district or this community in an uproar by giving up $4.3 million. All right, that's my position.
Chris, this extension expires February 1st. What could, a district writing a letter means nothing. A superintendent writing a letter means nothing.
It means nothing.
It means nothing. Do you agree with me? It means nothing? Yeah.
I
Yeah,
agree
it means
with you
nothing.
totally. It means
Yeah.
nothing.
What could the legal parties do to find out, from the state, what metrics, will get us, if this extension expires February 1, then everyone can do what they want to do. Nobody has to vote, right? Everybody can do what they want. Everybody's free. Free again.
If it expires, yes, you're right.
Free at last.
But it's not going to expire.
So
Margaret.
I understand it's not going to expire, but I'd like to know why it won't expire. To sit back and just say, okay, they just extended it with absolutely no information. I don't know where the people who were yelling and screaming about science are. I mean, wouldn't they want to know where we're at, where we need to be, where we have to get to? If we don't at least ask the questions, and I'm asking the legal teams to do it. You guys you and Gercio together represent pretty much half the state. Why can't you find that out on our behalf, or at least start giving a pathway to get out of this?
They don't want to be in that position, Margaret. That's the bottom line.
But then what's the alternative? That these kids are going to be in masks forever? Children who are in second grade don't remember life any other way.
They don't want to be put in that position, number one. Number two, in my life, and the ones that hold the most cards usually win, unless you get support on the back end. And you need a lot of support to beat the state. And they hold all the cards. They hold all the money. Is it right? No.
So Margaret, I know, I don't know what metrics the Department of Health is currently using. We do have contacts within the Department of Health, so I could try to get some information in terms of, what metrics they use. I remember you and I had a conversation over the summer, and, I said to you, there's no way that we're going to be required to wear masks in September. You remember that?
I remember.
And I believe that firmly. And
what did I say to you?
you said, I'm not so sure.
I said, you're dead wrong. That's what I said.
And you know what? If it wasn't for Omicron, we wouldn't be wearing masks. I don't believe.
No,
But I think.
no.
there
I have
are
to, I have to
there are
make
other
that, yeah.
factors that cause that.
We had Delta in July, but somehow, Jay Jacobs' sleepaway camps all remained
I know,
open.
I
You
know.
know, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And in the middle of July, when the narrative started turning on the Delta variant, it's coming. September 3rd it starts. We all sat in here in August with no masks. But September 3rd, it started. It's kind of like what happened in December. December 10th, 11th, and 12th, you were safe. But 13th, watch out. It knows the calendar days.
Yes.
So it's not the Omicron. It's going to be the next one. The next one's
I know.
Flurona. The next one after that is another cron. You know, it's just going to keep
Right.
going. So I don't understand. And you know what? If the answer is we've all given up, then I know my answer. And I got to do what I have to do for myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to fight. I have no skin in the game. I had no skin in the game last year for athletics. My kids were out of here. I have no skin in the game this year. None. And I take a lot of heat. So you can continue to fight to keep your children in masks at an unreasonable rate when CDC and Fauci this week came out and said the cloth masks that have been on your children for 2 years almost don't work. The next thing, your children will be wearing N95s. You heard it here first. So I don't understand why people don't see the progression. I just don't understand it. And, you know, why the light bulb doesn't go on and say, wait a minute, there were people saying the masks didn't work, and there were people that coming yelling the masks did work, and we needed the mask because it's safe. But wait a minute, Fauci and CDC just said this week, you know what, Fauci actually said, that cloth thing doesn't even, it doesn't do anything. And we're sitting here saying, let's keep our kids in masks. For what? For theater? For a false sense of security? To make you feel like your kid is better than the next kid, or you're a better person than the next person? And I'm going to tell you this right now. I know how many times I was reported to state ed, and I fully expect to be removed from this board every single time I come in here. I have yet to receive a fine, and I have yet to be removed. Although there is a petition to remove me, and if I make it the next 4 months, I make it the next 4 months. I don't care what happens to me. But I can't force other people to do the right thing, or to stand up, or to think the way I think, and I respect, and everybody on this board knows this. Brian and I, we had a, kumbaya moment. This board gets along. This board respects each other. And yes, do we have debate? Yes. And sometimes things are said in the boardroom that are hurtful. Maybe they're not in public, but things are said, and we all get by it. But at the end of the day, this board, I respect everybody's thoughts on here. I respect your vote, and I've always respected your vote no matter what we were voting on, because that's what this country is built on: discourse, debate, and then the right to vote and represent the people who elected you. So I guess we'll move on to next week.
What is our legal obligation in respect to the executive order? So he's mandated that everyone have a vote by a certain date, is that right? And what happens if we don't hold a formal vote, or do we need to hold a formal vote? How is that managed?
There's no indication in that executive order what will happen if people don't do that, so I don't know.
Is there a date? Do you have the language of the executive order, Chris?
Not on me, no.
I do.
Brian, did you want to chime in at all?
Yeah, at first I had really a loss of words as to what to say, and different feelings that I had on this. I know it's a divisive topic. I do have a skin in the game. All right, I have 3 children. My daughter's in 8th grade, attends North Shore Middle School. She wears her mask. She's adamant, even when she gets in the car with me, when I go to the grocery store, wherever I happen to be, Dad, please. My son Thomas, 4 years old, who goes to the YMCA, he's excited about his mask. You know, I got my dinosaur mask, I got my construction truck mask, and he's doing fine. So I do have a skin in the game. One of the things I do want to be clear on, and I guess a question to Dr. Graham, is the messaging as far as mask breaks are concerned. You know, I'm a little taken to hear that is it not being consistent across the district as far as mask breaks?
I do not know of any instances where our students aren't given opportunities to have mask breaks or breaks from the mask throughout the day consistently. I think from the very beginning, we have been trying to be as lenient as possible with masks, and that doesn't mean that there isn't someone who's reminding a student at a time in the day to pull their mask up or to wear it properly. And the truth is, I think people are afraid across the board at all levels, but I think they're doing their best to not convey that fear to our students. And I see students. I was in elementary buildings today. I saw students taking breaks from their masks. So I don't know where that's happening. I don't know where the message is getting lost, or if there's a, you know, how it's translating to getting to this table as there's students going the entire day without a break, but that's not what I'm seeing when I'm in our schools.
This has been happening since they've been coming back from break. And I'm getting messages as we're sitting here.
I don't see it.
This class, we're not,
I do not see
it's
it.
the teachers that are now saying after the break, mask breaks are no longer allowed. Teachers that were very
I do
lenient
not
with
see
mask
that at all.
breaks. But it's not a matter of seeing it. I don't have to tell you. We can get plenty of class moms or plenty of parents to come up, I'm sure, and say they were taken away. I'm sure there are certain teachers that have not. I'm sure that are doing the right thing, allowing kids to take the breaks they need. I believe that 100%. But again, we're talking about consistency, and I'm sitting here saying that there isn't. It's something that we should look into. I appreciate that when you've seen it. I'm happy to hear that. But it's not the case in every class across the board.
And that's important to me. I don't know necessarily if I would deviate off of the order right as of this time either. I agree with George, Sean, and really John. My heart tells me one thing too. You know, I work we're talking about, you know, where we work, aside from my personal family, I work in one of the largest elementary schools in Nassau County. I watch close to 900 children navigate the building, and they're fine.
They like it. They like the masks.
So, you know, that's kind of where I'm at. And the last thing I do want to just say is, as far as the tone of disrespect, maybe it's not the right way to put it, but at the board table, I'll reserve that for a board retreat and working together. You know, each of us brings to this table a different perspective, and I just want to be mindful. I want each board member to be mindful about put downs, and to just please continue to be respectful with one another. Any other comments from the board table? Okay, we'll open it up now for comments from the audience.
Amy Hockey Hartnett. I have a prepared statement, all from the pediatric website. I have one from my husband. I always read from a prepared statement. You can have them if you want. Honestly, I just want to say, I have a child, and I have stepchildren, and I'm a dedicated teacher of 25 years. And you do not need to be a parent. Once you've dedicated your life to taking care of children, you don't need to be a parent. And by that crappy, disgusting, trashy logic, it's important. No. You all cursed on that board. I don't want to hear a single word.
I've never cursed.
I didn't curse.
I didn't say you did. I said on the board. So don't tell me how to behave when this board doesn't behave. You don't have a sick child. You don't have an immunocompromised.
You don't know anything about my children. You have some nerve standing here telling me you know about my children.
I have time, and I will not be interrupted by the likes of you.
And I will not let you insult my children.
I didn't insult
Can-
your
can
children.
we-
I insulted
please-
you.
Ms. Ms. Harnett, you have the right
If
to
you
make-
want to speak directly
You
at a
are
board member,
trash.
first of
Ms. Harnett,
Excuse me?
Ms. Harnett,
You are trash.
Ms. Harnett,
That is a terrible thing
please
you
direct
said
your comments
to
to
a
the board.
dedicated professional who teaches children. You have
who
no
told,
idea.
who sat here and said,
You
who made
have
his comments and
classrooms
I
full
made
of
mine.
people
Ms. Harnett.
who take
Excuse
mass
me.
breaks. You know
please
that they
direct
take
your
mass
comments to the
breaks.
board.
I
Thank you.
am. Is
Thank
she
you.
not part of the board?
Thank you. Not to an individual
Thank
board, but
you.
to the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Thank you.
have people at,
Thank
my
you.
time has been taken away by the people who are speaking. So I'm going to continue to speak, as you know I will. The fact of the matter is, when a child is hurt on this campus, you use pediatricians to take care of them. When the pediatricians on the American Association of Pediatrics says in the statement that I prepared that you can read on their website, that this is the only way forward. If you are putting bad masks on your children, don't. I don't. My son has disposable masks. He throws them out throughout the day. If you're putting bad ones on, change them. There are solutions to this. But at this moment, we have beautiful, amazing homes that sit waterfront for years that can't sell. When you flip through the real estate guides that are all over the place, they mention Manhasset, always. They mention Jericho, they mention North Shore Schools where you have your son. They mention all of the fine places where you can educate your children. Where they don't mention is Locust Valley Public Schools. This is a place that cares about its politics more than its children. You talked about IB and AP and choice and choice and choice. You're trying to take away from us the health and safety of our children. You know that that's the way forward. You know that's what the doctors want. You wouldn't call a doctor or an ambulance if you didn't think they know what they were talking about. They are telling you to do this in the schools, and you can hold on a little bit longer. This is outrageous. It is outrageous. It is political. It is, can I get my name in the paper? That's all it is. You don't care about our kids.
Mrs.
And
Hartnett,
it's
the only thing that's political is
absolutely
you wearing that mask. I am
disgusting.
sorry,
Mrs.
you are a
Hartnett, thank you
hypocrite.
thank you for your
Sorry.
comment.
Sorry,
I
sorry.
would like my time back.
No, you
I
have,
would-
the
I would
buzzer
like
went off, my
time
friend.
back. You spoke through my comments. Polythema spoke through my comments. I am not going to sit down.
Names. Sit down. Your time is up.
Are you like mentally unstable?
Excuse me,
Sit down.
Ms. Harnett.
Am I safe
What
with
do you
these
have to
people
finish?
standing here?
Oh, my
My
God.
time, I'm signed up next.
Ms. Harnett, what do you have to finish?
I'm having a hard time focusing with people on my
Your
back.
time is up.
Will you mind sitting and then coming back up for the?
I would mind. I would like the
Let her
people who are
finish.
on
Just
my
please-
back
okay,
to move.
okay, just finish.
Brian, who cares? Just let her finish. What, the buzzer went off, but continue.
You spoke through my comments, and so did she. So I didn't have my comments. I had your comments.
Ms. Harnett, I didn't gavel you
The
down.
buzzer
Would you
went
please
off
finish? I
while
did
you
not
were
gavel you
spinning.
down.
Finish
Please.
your comments.
No, I don't want to say anything else. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Wow, that was embarrassing. I, for one, want to thank Margaret and Lauren for standing up for our children. As the grandmother of a kindergartner and a second grader who have not had a day of school without a mask, of the 5-year-old who's coming home with acne from the mask, who can't wait to pull it off when they get off the bus. I picked them up today with them to do their homework. I just don't understand how anyone thinks these masks are good. The little one, we're 99% sure the 5-year-old was the one who brought home Omicron before Christmas. All 6 of us got it. We're talking 2 unvaccinated children, a mother, the teacher, who's double vaxxed and boosted, and my husband, myself, and my son, who all had the J&J. We all got Omicron, okay? The masks don't work. Why you would continue, any of you, to subject our children to this? Our kindergartner had speech therapy when he was 4. The district very graciously paid for that, and it helped him. And now he's regressed because he has to be behind a stupid mask all day. So they don't work. It is child abuse. It's absolutely horrible to see. I mean, the second grader at least, I've told them, take them off. Don't, pull them down. Do not wear them. You want to breathe, take them down. And if anybody gives you a hard time, you call GAMI, and GAMI will be up there. Because it is child abuse, Sean. It is. And this has got to stop. And so what if you lose $4 million from the state? This district spends over $45,000 per student. And I guarantee you, I could go through that budget line by line and cut $4 million like that, all right, for all you spend on consultants and garbage. So take a stand. Be brave. Be bold. Margaret and Lauren have done it. They've walked the walk. They went to Albany. They went to Bruce Blakeman. I'm so proud of them. And they have children. They know what they're going through. And this is the time. You're worried about $4 million, John? Come on. Let's do the right thing for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you.